Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk to you a bit today about how important diversity is to innovation. And I'm going to give you some context based on a lot of the things that we're doing at L'Oreal. But first, I want to preface a bit my own background, so it seeds a lot of the POVs that I'll share with you today on, again, why diversity is at the heart of innovation. So my own background is I am the child of immigrant parents. My name is Nigerian. It means by the grace of God. My parents came to the US to go to school. And from there, I have 3 siblings. And I stayed in Los Angeles pretty much all through college, went to UCLA. And I worked and started in digital media. And then I decided I needed to have more of a global dexterity. And why? Because through my process of growing and learning in college, what I understood is that diversity is twofold. Diversity is both inherent, so again, the things that you are born with, gender, social or sexual orientation, and then it can also be things that you learn. And as part of that learning process, it's become apparent, especially now in the world that we live in, that diversity is really about creativity. And that creative process allows you to bring 2 different opinions or ideas or facts together to form a new one. And that, at the end of the day, is what innovation is about. And at L'Oreal, we have a process that we're going through now in the group called Beauty for All. And what Beauty for All is really about is this process of equal beauty for everyone. So what you define as beauty and what I define as beauty can coexist. And again, that's the beauty of what we are all trying to create and strive for. But on my team, which I lead open innovation at L'Oreal, and that's a big term to describe the work that I do with startups. And what that is about is bringing outside ideas into the group to form new ideas, new business models, new ways of doing things, also new talent ecosystems. So again, if you understand this process of bringing the outside in, it makes it much more diverse. And so on my team, when we adopt the group-wide policy of Beauty for All, I've adapted it to be Beauty for All, from our boardroom to your bathroom. And what that means is the talent that we bring into our group, internal and external, so inclusive of our startups, really has a range of backgrounds and disciplines and talents. And that also impacts the innovation that we bring to your bathroom. So the products, personalized for every man, every woman, and also the services. Because a lot of what we're now getting into are digital services that allow people to experience beauty, again, at the core of innovation. But we can't do that in isolation. So again, going back to what I mentioned about diversity, it allows us to work with outside partners. You might have read in the news recently, we had a recent acquisition, which is very exciting, the first tech acquisition by a beauty company called Modiface. And what Modiface allows us to do is also widen this circle of diversity. The CEO of Modiface is from Iran. His team comes from all over the world, inclusive of places like China, Toronto, the United States, France. And again, this collection of minds coming together to build the best of beauty tech, it allows L'Oreal to continue this pipeline and ladder up again to this vision of beauty for all. So inside and outside, we have a collective stream of people working together to foster new ideas. So I'll talk to you about 3 tangible ways that we're doing this. And again, first is in the products and services. So products, there's a big movement now you see in beauty and also industries that are not specific to beauty about personalization. This is important because it really speaks to the notion of diversity. You walking into a store, being yourself, needing a solution or a product and not finding it. Worst feeling in the world. But you walking into a store and being able to customize a solution based on your need, your desire, your wish, that answers the notion of beauty for all. And that speaks to the innovation that's happening in our group to make sure that, again, we can translate the needs of every person into a tangible product or service. So the product could be some of the innovations that we've recently launched, where you can walk to a Lancome counter and find your custom foundation shade made exclusively for you at the counter. Or we're working on some augmented reality apps that allow you to try on any product, any look, from across any of our brands without physically having tried on the product, so you feel confident before you buy and you can customize your look. Again, this notion of inclusion is at the core because, again, the people behind what we are building come from such different backgrounds, so they're able to speak to the needs of a diverse world. And then we're making sure that we answer the needs of consumers. So that's the first opportunity that we have in terms of delivering diversity at the core of innovation. The second way that we are bringing diversity to the core of innovation is through our talent. As I mentioned, be it through acquisitions, partnerships with startups, or even our own talent pipeline, we make sure that we strive to have a diverse collective around the table. And this is imperative. You can't sit here and call yourself a global beauty brand that can deliver products or services around the world if your whole team is homogenous. An example of that is the team that I myself have built. I have people from Spain, the UK, France, of course, the United States, Africa, and it really brings a great convergence of inspiration and ideas when we're creating things for consumers, when we're working with the brands to identify what their needs are, and then there's that real reciprocity, an exchange of ideas. Because as I mentioned before, innovation is really about bringing two different things together and then creating something new. And that's essentially what diversity is. And when you bring diversity that, again, things you weren't born with, your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, you can learn diversity. You can learn diversity from living in a different market, working on something that is not juxtaposed to who you are. And these gained experiences allow you to bring a different point of view to the table. So that's what I aspire to have with the team that I built, and that's what we inspire ourselves to do when we're working with different startups internally and then also externally to the group. The last important thing that we do at L'Oréal in terms of really fostering this notion of diversity being at the heart of innovation is around the creative process. The creative process is exactly how I described innovation, right? You have an idea, then you have a juxtaposed idea, and then you vet through that to hopefully create something new or make your idea even stronger or even better. So then at the core of that, if you look at a lot of the things that our group is doing, both internally and externally, you see that process happening. When I first moved to France, which was 4 years ago, I learned at L'Oréal this notion of the healthy debate. And for me, I just would think, okay, this is a long meeting that's taking a long time. But what I learned through that process of the healthy debate is that there's a confluence of ideas. And through that process of sharing ideas, vetting ideas, going back and forth, there's creativity. And why? Because there's different vantage points. There's different collective ways of sharing. So me being a Black woman from the US, my cohort being a Spanish man that's lived in Argentina, again, that juxtaposition there, to someone from the China team being at the table as well. Again, it's a convergence of different ideas. Through that, again, some of these meetings I still think are a bit of a waste of time, but through that, you see our best work come through, including a lot of the things that we're doing in digital and in innovation. You see the birth of new technology, such as the first augmented reality app that we ever launched in the group called Makeup Genius, and this was in 2014. And this innovative launch was revolutionary for two reasons. One, because we were the first makeup brand to bring an opportunity for women and men around the world to try on our products from the comfort of your couch or from inside your bathroom. But we couldn't do that in isolation because, again, we're a global company. So what this look meant in China had to be reflected differently in LA or also in France. So this convergence of ideas from different people around the table, again, often a lot of debate, healthy, and often a lot of pushback because people were coming from their own vantage point. No, 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 no. In LA, women don't wear their makeup like that. No, 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 no. In China, much softer on the eye, please, much softer on the eye. But at the end of the day, what we learned is that this melting pot of ideas gave us our best technology launch in the history of the company. And what we were able to achieve in the past 4 years has led us to, again, where we are today, where we've acquired a technology company to continue building a pipeline of innovation that we've started with Makeup Genius, to allow women, again, around the world to try on our products and feel confident that what they are trying on has been built with them in mind. Another thing that's important to understand as part of this creative process is that there's an author that many of you may know, and if you don't, he's quite interesting. He was a very respected author in the US. His name is Stephen Covey. He wrote 7 Rules of Highly Successful People. Normally at graduations in US universities, that's the first thing your mentor or your professor might give you if you're close to them. And this book teaches you how to be successful and what are those tips and tricks that the most successful business people aspire to. One of the things that he said in that book is that it is our strengths, what makes us stronger are our differences. So the strength in everything we do in business and actually in life lies in our differences, not in our similarities. So again, going back to this notion of diversity, going back to this notion of innovation that we strive to create, that's what we inspire ourselves to bring around the table. And a lot of the opportunities that we have in this learning process is not everyone coming to the table saying, oh, I'm from this background, or I'm from this background. A lot of it has to do with, I'm from this background and I've had this experience. So again, looking back at my own life and the experiences that I've had, being from the US, never really traveling much, working in digital my whole career, and now being fortunate enough to work at a great company like L'Oreal in digital technology at a beauty company, it's astonishing. Because my experience is at the core, along the lines of being diverse by birth, but then diverse by the experiences that I've acquired are allowing me to bring my best innovation to the group and making sure that regardless of me not knowing someone's background or me not knowing a demographic of a consumer, that I can learn and that I can provide the best experience for them through product and through service. The last thing that I will leave you with before I summarize at the core of what we're really trying to do at the core of innovation is within Beauty for All, again, that notion of really equating people with the best beauty experience for themselves. I noted to you that my adaptation for my team is making sure that within the boardroom, we have the right collective around the table. And I am one of few African-American women in the company. There's several women in the company, and it's a great place to work. But my experience has really been confolded in my working career and also living in France by just being in a situation where a lot of times I might be the only one in the boardroom to share that experience. I might be the only one that has this background and has this opinion because I am rare. And I'm rare for 2 reasons, not just because I am a Black woman, but because I am a Black woman who comes from the US, who speaks English, who was born with a birth defect, and who has had to adapt to a world that is not always sized for me. And what I mean by that is, as you can see, I'm relatively tall. I'm also very outspoken. And within that, there's certain roles and expectations that you're expected to play. So the path to diversity and inclusion might be a bit harder for certain people than others. And through this experience, what I have been able to learn is a bit of humility in my professional career, but also in my personal life. And that humility allows me to bring forth sensitivity when I'm sharing my point of view. and also sensitivity when I'm listening to someone else's point of view. Because that's half the battle in the creative process. That is half the battle in the innovation process, is having that sensitivity to understand someone's background, where they're coming from. Why are you even telling me this? So that's why I opened up our conversation today with a bit of understanding of where I'm coming from, which has led me to these vantage points, which has led me to this desire to practice sensitivity and humility within my innovation process. And that really allows us to bring forth the best technology on my team. It allows me to make sure that in my recruitment process, I'm not just looking for people like myself that have the same backgrounds and have the same experiences. And same when we're working with startups. The beauty of working with startups is you really, really learn how much time you waste. Because honestly, entrepreneurs are hustling. The founders of these startups, they are working, they are busting their asses every day, and they don't waste time. And as part of that not wasting time, things might get lost in translation. You might be like, oh, well, that's pretty abrupt, that's pretty direct, but it's not. At the end of the day, the convergence of cultures, the convergence of diversity always creates a bit of discomfort. Because again, people are naturally graduating towards things that are similar to them. But this humility, this discomfort, if we open our minds and open ourselves to that process, it really is a beautiful thing. And it has allowed me in my 40 years to do a lot of thinking that has brought forth a lot of my best work. So I'll leave you with that tidbit that I shared with you 5 minutes ago from Stephen Covey, that if we embrace the difference versus always embracing the similarity, we really can find the strength, and through that, we really can see the best heart of all of our innovations. So thank you for allowing me to share this with you today, and speak soon.